What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Part-Time Watchers podcast with Keith and Lorcan, talking about everything in the world of pop culture, movie news, comic books, video games, TV shows, you name it, and we might talk about it part-time. And this week, it's basically just talking the PS5.
Well, I wouldn't change it for the world, except the whole look and aesthetic of the PlayStation itself. But we'll get into it. I'm sure we'll get into it. Keith, how is quarantine treating you?
Quarantine life is going all right. Yeah, I mean, I'm between two places, quarantining for work and then quarantining at home. So that's a bit of a different challenge. But yeah, it's going grand. How are you finding it? You were home within the boundaries and everything, of course.
Oh, totally. I totally didn't break any restrictions or anything along those lines. No. I was at home and it was delightful. But I'm happy to be back in the capital city. That is the biggest epicenter of the coronavirus at the moment. And I was saying that Ireland's actually done a pretty good job, and we're next to nearly gotten rid of it at this stage. But listen, I'm sure things will come back in waves and lengths. But this is the best it's been in a while. It's looking like cinemas might reopen again in July, but I don't know. It's gonna be a crazy old wild ride. So it's good that we have some PlayStation news on the horizon to take our minds off this. Yeah.
At-home video games are just at home. All video games are at home. The video game sector has just been like, "Hey, quarantine, we'll take over from here. We got you covered."
It's all good. It's between that and documentaries are just like nailing it right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Netflix documentaries. But yeah, so there actually is talk of like you mentioned, the cinemas opening soon enough. But for the last couple of months with the quarantine and lockdown, so many movies have been pushed, and I don't even have this in the notes today, but I know. Just there on Friday, I think it was, that Wonder Woman was pushed until, when is it pushed to? It's August to September?
I think so. Oh no, it's I think it's September. Yeah, I think you're right with September, because I think they're pushing it back as far as they can get away with really right now. So yeah, I think it's September, because it was supposed to be coming out in July, wasn't it? Mid-July?
It originally was July, then they pushed it to August, and now it's been pushed again. So I don't know if it's September or it's sometime in the fall. But they've also pushed Tenet, which is going to be the big release in July, and they've pushed it 2 weeks, and it's still going to be the big release in July.
I reckon that's just going to come out regardless. So the idea is that I was listening to the Kevin Smith podcast, as I do every now and again, and they were chatting about how essentially, like, in America, if the way they're looking at it, you have the two big epicenters of California and New York basically shut down. So realistically, the cinemas aren't open there anytime soon. Maybe not even until 2021 by the looks of things, depending on how crazy it is. But the rest of the US is probably going to open to some degree, and it seems like they're just going to do it to take the hit almost, just to be that first one out, because they can't push it back any further. So it seems like they're going to do it, and it's either going to do amazingly well because it's the only thing that's out, or it's going to bomb so hard. But either way, it's going to be seen as like a big act. So it's never going to be deemed a failure, because even if it does fail, it'll be like, well, there was a global pandemic. So I think everything's going to be chalked up. So it's looking like that's just going to happen. And then even if cinemas aren't even open in, Ireland and the UK until the end of the summer, it's just going to have to come out at the end of the summer. So it's such a weird time for all this. But I don't know.
And I seen even The Matrix 4 was pushed back to 2022 as well.
Forgot about that movie.
We're definitely not getting. We're the day where we're going to have John Wick 4 and Matrix 4 on the same day with Keanuverse, but that's not happening now. I don't know when John Wick 4 is.
It'll just be Bill and Ted now. Will clash with it.
Exactly.
And then potentially Cyberpunk. But yeah, speaking of Bill and Ted,
they've got a new trailer. Have you this? So Bill and Ted 3. I can't even remember what the subtitle is.
Face the Music.
Face the Music, yes, that's it. They've released a new trailer, but have you... this is an admission that I have, is that I have never watched the first two Bill and Ted's.
So I have seen the first one, I think, but I was quite young at the time, and I remember not loving it because, again, I think as a kid, I just didn't get it. You know what I mean? Like, I remember watching Wayne's World around the same time, which is similar-ish in terms of tone. Obviously not the weird sci-fi kind of time-bending stuff that happens as well with it, but it's a similar sort of like parody on like that rock guy, and I can't remember, one definitely bites its style off the other. I don't know if it's Wayne's World or Bill and Ted. Basically the way the characters act and are portrayed are quite similar, but I remember always preferring Wayne's World and never really giving Bill and Ted a chance. And then up until recently, when all these rumors came around, I was like, I must rewatch them, and I haven't gone back. I couldn't even tell you much about what happened in the first one either, but seeing this trailer, I'm like, you know what, like I'd love to go back and binge like these two, because it just seems like fun, like a whole lot of fun.
Yeah, it's so weird watching like Keanu play this role again now that he's so much older, because you're looking at him and you're like, yeah, he was cheesy when he done it the first time, but looking at him now, I'm like, I know you're an adult. You just look so strange pulling off this character, or trying to pull off this character. Like every word he says, I'm like, this looks like an SNL sketch or something. Like
kinda, but like I think it's weird because a lot of people would see Keanu as being this character as well, which is really strange, because I think me and you see him as the John Wick, or you know, the Neo from the Matrix, and I've always seen him as in this semi-serious type of role, but also being quite playful, like in real life. But like people would have him down as, you know, Bill and Ted's, and you know that's his whole deal as well. So it is strange. I like seeing him like this, because he looks older in this. Like he looks older than he has in anything else at the minute. But I think that's intentional almost as well. Yeah,
which one is he? Is he Bill or Ted?
I actually don't know.
We're two very educated people to be talking about this film.
I think over this week I'm going to watch the first two, because like I kind of put it down there. I'm like, I'm dying to actually see these now again. So yeah.
And then when the third one comes out, we'll do a big review of all three of them together.
Yeah, why not?
Speaking of movies, Lorcan, that I'm sure you are dying to see, Blumhouse, the awesome creators of so many of the most popular horror franchises in the last 10 years, have a new movie coming out. They've released a new trailer. Kevin Bacon is the star, and the movie's called You Should Have Left, and it seems like it's for anyone that's seen the trailer, it's just kind of like another take on like a version of a modern day haunted house type thing.
It looks like the house from The Invisible Man, ironically enough.
It does, right? It looks exactly like the house from The Invisible Man. It's like a modern day, like, haunted house type story. Yeah. Basically what it looks like. It's like, from the trailer, it's a family and he's a writer, and something happened in his past. So they tried to get away from it. They went to this house, and then weird things start happening.
I like the concept. See, so the way the thing sets up, where they show in the trailer that it's this modern house, to go there, neither of them recommend, or neither of them actually kind of can remember who kind of picked it out or whose idea it was. You know, there's all the little creepy stuff where, you know, the shadows pop up. He sees that the room is bigger on the inside than it is on the outside. And I'm like, I really like this. Yeah, I like this kind of concept as well. But then it done a typical kind of Blumhouse thing where, you know, it just cuts to a basement, and then it's like whatever, like a bathtub with like a creepy ghost in it, and I'm just like, ugh, you know what I mean? And it's not even that I'm put off because it's going to be spooky now, but it's kind of more like I actually like the weird sci-fi kind of element to it, or kind of horror element to it, where like it mightn't be ghosts, it could be something else, but now it just seems like it's ghosts. So I'm just like, ugh.
Yeah, that's exactly the reaction I had from it too, because the first, like, I don't know how long the trailer is, but the first half of the trailer, before they show any of the actual like spooky ghosts, essentially, with just the beginning of it, where it's the setup, and it's like, him and his wife can't figure out, like, no, you recommended this place, no, I recommended, which one of us was it? And like you measuring the house, and the daughter, is it daughter, son?
It's the daughter.
The kid, she's starting to like ask questions about the house, and there's someone else saying like, oh, you really shouldn't go to that house, and the whole idea of like the unknown is what I was really getting into. And then when it showed that, like, oh, there is just some spooky thing there, and that's what's going to be
it's just a ghost, because even like I think in the voiceover it's just like, oh, the house used to be something else, so it's probably like, oh, it used to be a super haunted house and they knocked it down and built this modern house onto it, so the actual take on it is just that it's a modern looking haunted house, but still the same old kind of ghosts are haunting it. I just thought there was a really good concept there with like, is it even a haunted house, is it like a dimensional thing, is it a psychological thing, like, is it just trauma and this idea, like I don't know, I was looking at the start and like, wow, okay, this seems like a Blumhouse movie that I'm going to get into, and then I just saw a ghost and I'm like, oh, what a waste, you know, like but anyway, like, listen, it looks good, like, you know, and I like Kevin Bacon as well. I think he's actually good in stuff. Amanda Seyfried, I think, is the girl in this as well, the wife, and she's great in stuff. She can do a really good horrified sort of scream, so she can as well. That's her thing. So yeah, like it looks good, but like I'm just not interested, to be honest with you. I'll wait till a review comes out and maybe they're doing like a double take where it's like, oh, it's actually not a ghost, it is what it was, and that's another way we're trying to get you, but I doubt it.
Yeah, that's I think it's just going to be another kind of. I don't think it's going to spawn a franchise or be like. I don't think it's going to hit and be like, oh my god, this completely new thing. I think it's just going to be another one of those. Oh yeah, good little Blumhouse movie. Nothing major. Moving on. So we have. There's not a whole pile. We were saying just before the podcast. There's not a whole pile of movie and TV news because the certain PlayStation 5 decided to come out and everybody else just was like, no, we don't want to drop any news this week. But something that we did hear a rumor towards the beginning of the week was that Matt Reeves, who's directing The Batman, is reportedly looking to cast another Joker for the sequel to The Batman. So for the follow-up to next year's The Batman with Robert Pattinson. So what is your take on this, Logan? Do you want to see another new Joker in a sequel of this movie? Because bearing in mind, within the last, well, no, it's not last 10 years now, but we had Heath Ledger's Joker, we had Jared Leto's Joker, we had Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, we have about 3 different animated versions of the Joker in the last couple of years as well.
Yeah. And
we want to...
Yeah, listen, like normally my answer would be no, but then I kind of thought about it a bit more, but the 2 Jokers that we've gotten recently, like in live action, kind of in bigger, have been Jokers without a Batman, really. So like, you know, we've had the Joaquin Phoenix Joker obviously didn't have a Batman, had a young Bruce Wayne, so it's a different story. It's not really a Joker either. It's like it's a different type of tale. And then Jared Leto's Joker again was Suicide Squad Joker, and there was no real interaction with Batman. And like the best I think of Joker is playing off a Batman as well. So it's kind of like, yeah, I do think it's been a while. Like it has been since Ledger, since we've had a proper Batman Joker, you know, kind of dynamic. So like it makes sense. And plus this is the sequel to the Batman movie. So like I think if this had been the first one, and instead of going with the Penguin or the Riddler or or Catwoman, or I can't remember what rogue gallery they're pulling from for the first film, but like to have it in a sequel makes sense, because it'd be weird, because if you think about it, like the Batman's coming out soon, this one will be another whatever 2.5 years off at this stage as well, and then another sequel will be another 2, like it'd be the guts of nearly 5 or 6 years until we see another Joker. So it kind of makes sense that they do it in the sequel. The only thing now is that it's going to be full of speculations and casting, and people are going to be calling for it to be Joaquin Phoenix, which I think would be a mistake, because I think that sits by itself and it's just good, you know what I mean? And then same with Leto, you can't do a Leto without kind of talking about Ben Affleck Batman. And that's another thing that we might get on to now. Again, like if the Ben Affleck one kicks off, then maybe Leto is still there. So it's kind of a weird place we're living in at the minute. I'm not sure how you stand on this, but I don't think it's too soon to talk about it, because it's just the context of that dynamic that I feel like we'd be missing. So it is a different thing, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm pretty much on the same wavelength as you are there, because like you mentioned, the Batman movie is coming in 2021. So if we are going to get a Joker in the sequel, that movie is not going to be until minimum like earliest 2023, probably even further away, probably 2024 or something. So like that's going to be 5-6 years since we will have seen, like, we'll say Joaquin Phoenix's Joker at that stage. So I don't think it's too early. Like they're not casting someone right now. If they were casting someone right now, while there's all this speculation going on about will Joker get a sequel, will Jared Leto come back in like the Suicide Squad or whatever, like when there's all that going on, I think now is a bit early. But by the time we get to this, like this is still only a rumor. No one's confirmed this, but Matt Reeves hasn't said they're going to have They haven't even confirmed they're going to have a sequel. Like they've said that he's working hopefully on a trilogy, but like his first movie has to work before they turn around and be like, oh yeah, now we're going to make a second and a third, so like I don't think it's too early at all. And I think it's definitely too early to start casting people, because by the time we get to 2021, 2022, when they start actually casting it, we've no idea who's going to be hot, who's going to be who's going to be doing well at that stage. Like, because people now are casting like Willem Dafoe, and because like him and Robert Pattinson were together in The Lighthouse, and like let's look at Willem Dafoe's face. He looks like he would pull off the Joker. But like say that in 4 years' time, and then we'll have a bit of a question about like, oh yeah, let's get him in the role or whatever. I think now it's just too early to be casting or anything. But I would definitely say that I am excited for it, because like you said, this is going to be a new take on the Batman. From all we've heard so far, it's going to be a very, even though it's like Batman kind of year 2, like there's going to be the Riddler, there's going to be the Penguin, like Catwoman's going to be there, Commissioner Gordon, he's not going to be commissioner yet, is going to be in it, but like it's going to be a very realized version of Gotham City, you know?
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
like, of course, there's going to be a Joker in it. And if it's going to be an early tale Batman, the last thing you want to do is have Batman into a story 10 years before you introduce the Joker, because Joker is such an integral part of who the Batman
exactly.
becomes.
Yeah,
So, if you're going to tell a story, it's kind of difficult to not have the Joker in there somewhere.
yeah,
So, it
and
totally
like
makes sense.
yeah, and like I think even like the smart thing, if you were starting from scratch and there wasn't all this behind it, like the first villain would be the Joker almost, and then you have him return for the trilogy. But just because everything's so Joker saturated at the minute, it's a good call that Matt Reeves went with like a different cast and maybe hint towards the Joker exists in this world. But like I'd actually nearly prefer if it's like there's a hint of something happening, or like, you know, maybe a reference to like the Red Hood or something like that from early days Batman, and something's on the horizon, almost like the way the Dark Knight done it, where like, you know, it ended with that kind of sequence where Gordon finds the Joker card, you know what I mean, and it's like, you know, something's kind of happened or whatever, and it's like, oh, like I like that, like, so yeah, like I love the Joker, and you know, I love the character as well, but it's definitely oversaturated at the moment. And yeah, like, yeah, and I kind of always have my like I don't know about yourself, but anytime these questions come up, because he's such a big character and people love to speculate on who'd kind of play him, I always have my list of people, but you know, it's totally dependent on the moment nearly as well. Like someone I would have said a couple of years ago would not play that role now at all. And then it'll be the same in a couple of years' time where, you know, someone else could be new and up and coming and it'd make more sense. But yeah, like listen, it's all speculation now, but like I definitely guarantee that the second film would have a Joker in it. There's no way it wouldn't.
Yeah, absolutely. The only thing that would make me in any way worried is the fact that it'll be Joker showing up in the second film of a trilogy, very
Yeah.
similar to Heath Ledger's Joker showing
Yeah.
up. So I just like I'd be curious to see how they'd approach it to make sure that it wasn't just like
Yeah.
similar. Like obviously they're not going to tell the same type of story, but like how
Mm-hmm.
do you even bring a Joker into a story without it feeling similar to like Heath Ledger's take
Mm-hmm.
in The Dark Knight, you know?
It's
So I'd
true.
be very curious to see what they would do with that in that type of a story. But either way, like whether or not they bring Joker into it, I'm still super pumped to see what this Batman is like,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of how it does go forward into that trilogy like they've been planning. And following on from this version of Batman and everything we've been talking about, obviously we know Comic-Con was also cancelled this summer.
Mm-hmm.
So the big geek event of the year. Obviously Comic-Con is usually where Marvel and DC and all the studios come out and push all of their big movies, TV shows, comic books, all that kind of stuff that's coming in the future. So without that happening, Comic-Con are trying to run like a Comic-Con at home event throughout the summer.
Yeah.
But
It's such an odd thing.
yeah, but we've known for a while now that like Marvel and Disney have kind of pulled out of that Comic-Con in general,
Mm-hmm.
just because they've started doing their own what's the Disney event called? The Disney Expo or
Yeah, D23.
D23, that's it.
Yeah.
So they're doing that. And what DC have decided to do this year, because obviously we have so much stuff coming out.
DC24. Just a
Is that
little
what they're
bit
calling
better.
it?
No, but it'd be
No,
gas
no.
instead of D23, it's DC24.
They
Or
kind of could call it because,
DC23. Yeah.
yeah, they nearly could call it that, because what DC are doing is they're running their own type of Comic-Con at home. So they're just running a DC specific version of it.
Yeah.
It's in August, and it's going to be like a 24-hour online event where they kind of showcase all their upcoming movies and TV shows they want to talk about. They'll probably push an awful lot of stuff from HBO Max, you would assume. But this is really interesting. I nearly don't know what I would prefer. If I'd prefer like, because I don't know what Comic-Con would be if all these studios left and started doing their own thing.
Yeah.
But I also kind of like the fact that now we might have a couple of different events throughout the year where it's like, oh, here's where you get all your Star Wars news, and here's where you get all your Marvel news, and here's where
I
you get
much
all
prefer it, because I find now if like things like E3 and things like Comic-Con were at their peak, there was just too much news. So like I'd see stuff, and then like maybe a month later I'd come across like a random trailer on YouTube for something I actually care about. I'm like, oh, that was announced at Comic-Con. Whereas, you know, like if they have their own selected thing, like their own Marvel one or their own Star Wars one or their own DC one, I kind of get all of it in one. And then it's different pockets throughout the year. So it's not like I'm waiting every single year until like July. Do you know what I mean? Or like until like August or something like that for E3. It kind of all comes as one, you know, and then it's different pockets throughout the year. So I'd love if like it wasn't all just a summer thing either as well, and they were brought out a little bit later. But like, yeah, I'm totally on board with you there. It's kind of good to have these little things to look forward to, and it be all about just them. So yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
it's
them
good
kind
for
of
our
taking.
podcast as well.
Yeah, exactly. It narrows it down because when we try, every time we've done a podcast episode on Comic Con, it goes on for like an hour and a half or 2 hours because we just have so much we want to talk about that
It's
comes out of these
crazy.
things. So yeah, it's definitely nice having something like this. But we haven't really heard with this DC event. We haven't heard, or they haven't announced like what they're going to be covering it or what's going to come out of it. But like it's set in August, so I mean the things we can assume we're going to get. I would assume like they're going to talk about Wonder Woman again, but like I feel like they just don't because they've been promoting that movie for like a year and a half now. It's like just let it happen. It's coming in September. Like do a bit of push for it at the event, sure,
Yeah.
but don't go showing us another trailer or anything. We've seen enough trailers. We don't need any more. Maybe get the cast there to like promote it and start the hype train for it.
Yeah.
But obviously we have that. Like next year we have the Suicide Squad and the Batman coming. I know the Suicide Squad had the majority of their shooting done. And like we know James Gunn, like they had done the trailer for the first Guardians after like 2 weeks of filming.
Yeah.
So I would hope, or I would assume that we're going to get a Suicide Squad trailer at this thing.
That'd
Hopefully, we're definitely going to get, we're definitely going to get something to do with the Batman. I would assume whether it's a trailer or it's just the cast like coming on, not on stage, but coming on screen and talking about it a bit more. Because again, bar the actual suit, like and the Batmobile, we haven't seen anything really else from it. Like we haven't seen any official images of the characters or anything, bar like behind the scenes stuff. So I would assume we're going to get a bit more information on the Batman because this will be their chance to kind of push it for next year. But then after that, everything else is kind of up in the air. I mean, I don't know if we'll get any new announcements because it feels like every week we're just getting kind of DC news kind of dropped or announced. I'm assuming something might be there about the Snyder Cut.
Yeah, I reckon we'll get some form of a trailer that will tease to like potentially what's different about it as well. Because like they've built up the hype by just mentioning it. So I'd say by the time it gets around to August, they might have some of the visuals rendered out already. So there's already clips of things like, oh, and then maybe even that shot of Darkseid for us to go, wow, this is like a different movie. Do you know what I mean? So like, I reckon we'll get that. I know it's mentioned by yourself as well, but I think we'll get a mention of like Black Adam or something along those lines. And then there's definitely opportunity for DC series as well. Like I think the ones that are kind of already existing, like so the Harley Quinn series as well as on season 2, I reckon that'll get a season 3, so it'll be like more mentions of it. I'm not sure what the status of Titans is at the moment. I didn't watch any of season 2 or anything, but like I wonder will be an announcement of a season 3, and then even potentially a brand new show or something along those lines could be good. Like like I don't really know. Like they don't really talk about the DC properties on CW, do they at all? Like that's not something that might be pulled to HBO Max or anything.
Not to HBO Max, but I'm assuming they'll still like maybe they'll have like a trailer for the new seasons, or they'll talk about the new seasons because obviously a lot of those seasons have been pushed back to start in January, where they usually start in September at the beginning of like the TV season because they haven't been fit to shoot them. They're all been pushed, so none of them are starting till January. So maybe they might have like some kind of talk about like, oh, here's going to be the storyline for next season, or here's how it's going to work. Because I mean, I assume they're not going to do 22 episode seasons if they're only starting in January. I'm assuming nearly every season might just get like a 15 episode order or something like that. So they'll probably have to touch on that just to give some information around it. Maybe there's, I mean, obviously that Superman and Lois series is coming out.
Oh yeah.
In January, so they'll probably have some kind of information on that, maybe have the cast out or whatever. I would hope in terms of the movies that they bring out like Henry Cavill, because now
I was just about to say
news.
I'm just about to say I'd say it'll be an announcement of, you know, some of the upcoming slate for things again. So like there'll be kind of confirmations of your kind of sequel to Aquaman and stuff like that. And then there'll be like, and then by the way, also Henry Cavill's back and we're doing another Superman or something along those lines. I feel like there'll be a big announcement of that scale. Because they seem like they're good in Pally now again. So
yeah, and we said that on the podcast that like we've kind of had that like it's almost confirmed that he's going to be back or it is confirmed that he's going to come back and be in like bit parts in other movies. So maybe show up in Shazam, potentially show up in Black Adam, but I can't imagine because they would have had that scripted already. So you'd never know.
Do you think they'll come out with like under a clause to just mention that the Flash is officially cancelled and Ezra Miller is kicked off the project?
Well, you know what I'd love is if they come out and just like, and our Flash is going to be, and just pretended Ezra Miller never existed. Just cast like, someone else, and everyone's going to be like, what about Ezra Miller? And they'll be like, who? Never heard of him. He's never been here. Who's that guy?
God,
just pretend.
Like I've like, and then replace him with like someone who's kind of sort of similar as well, like, you know, like a Timothée Chalamet or something like that, and then just pretend it's him, draw like a goatee on him, and he's like, he's the same guy, big floppy hair, you know.
You never changed. What are you talking?
Yeah.
And they could use that. What's that app where you basically superimpose someone else's face for the Snyder cut? Just put Timothy Chalamet in instead of.
I mean, they basically
Ezra
done
Miller.
that with like the mustache, so they may as well like put in some bad CG in there as well.
Yeah, exactly. What would Justice League be without terrible CGI face in the middle of it somewhere?
Oh,
But look, we obviously we've no idea what's going to come out. We'll probably hear rumors between now and then. In my deepest of hearts, I know it's not coming. I do believe it's not coming, but I still am holding out some kind of hope because there are so many rumors going around, and I know it's a lot of small sites. None of the big sites have run with it, but there are rumors going around that people within AT&T that obviously own Warner Brothers, the people within AT&T and people within Warner Brothers would like to get Ben Affleck back in some capacity.
Yeah.
Now, again, rumors, no one's confirmed it. None of the rumors have been from people that I would actually trust. So it's just my heart kind of hoping it happens. But I would love, what my dream would be for Affleck now at this stage. I don't want him to do another movie, but that script that he had, the one that was meant to be set in Arkham and he faced off against Deathstroke, who we know Joe Manganiello was cast, had that suit, looked amazing, showed up in the post-credit scene in Justice League. I'd love to see them make whatever that movie was going to be into like a 4 or 5 episode HBO Max series, because that'd be a great way to bring back Batfleck. It'd be so good.
Yeah,
because they could bring back Batfleck.
I don't think so. Like, I really, yeah. Like, see, the only thing about this, like, I'm 100% on board with that. I'd love like a short 4-parter. I'd love Arkham. I'd love the Deathstroke. I'd love all of that, to be honest with you. But like, purely because the Batman is coming out at the moment as well, that like, you know, even with the Snyder cut, it might be already too much like additional Batman stuff as well. That like when they bring out the brand new property, I don't think they're going to want anything else Batman related around that time to confuse fans or bring them off anywhere else. But yeah, like I'd love it as well, but realistically, that's not happening. I think Ben Affleck's days as Batman is done. It's all gone.
Don't ruin my dreams, Lorcan.
I'm killing. I am stamping at dreams. The silence there for a second was very much like, fuck you.
Like, look, all right, just let me have my thing, all right?
No,
but that's
like,
what I'm
totally
pitching.
HBO. I'd kill it. Like, it'd be so good. Like, again, I don't think anyone's done a good Arkham, and I think in terms of an Arkham kind of story, you know, like Ben Affleck would be like, it'd be like, if they could just commit to doing that for a TV show and then have maybe him and then cameos for other Batman, and it's just about getting out of Arkham, you know what I mean? Like, and if they could just resist themselves to just doing that, it'd be great. But like I just know the way DC operate. But
that's the thing. Like, they've seen it's like everything has pointed in the last like 2 months, like between the Snyder cut, between Henry Cavill coming back to be in other Superman movies. Everything has seemed like they're just like almost like, okay, remember that mess we made? Let's try and fix it where we can.
Yeah.
And like I said, I agree with you. I don't think this is ever going to happen.
No.
But that would be the dream, is that they announce that and you have a Batman series where he's set in Arkham with Joe Manganiello. Who knows? Bring back Leto and maybe he'd actually be good facing off against Batman in that kind of a series.
Yeah.
And it could kind of like just, and even like we've heard all, like David Ayer is absolutely dying to get his Ayer cut of Suicide Squad made. Like, he's just pushing that everywhere. So if that gets that gets made as well, I mean, it's one of those things where I'm going to say that I think there's about a 10% chance that it might happen.
No.
10, and I know that's big, but I'm going to say about a 10% chance. This is a personal dream of mine. I've been talking about Batfleck. It's literally since the first moment he was cast. So I'd love it to happen. It's not going to happen, but I'd love it to happen. But I think
if there's even a 1% chance that this happens, we have to take it as absolute.
Like Bruce said in Batman v Superman. The one thing I would say though is, like, we have Superman going on the CW and we have Superman going on the big screen, and no one's ever got confused about it. So like, I know
it's kind of more like, the CW is one thing as well. Like, if they hadn't pulled the trigger and went through the whole thing of hiring, you know, another Batman and going into like this run of it, then it definitely would be possible. But the only thing is that, like, if they cast another Superman, there's no way in hell they'd do this Superman for, you know, for live action. It's just the level of it as well, and the fact that it's Robert Pattinson as well just says a different direction. Like, I think you're totally right. It seems like a weird move by DC that they've kind of they've moved on in some respect, but have also backpedaled in some respect as well. So like the Batman, or Matt Reeves the Batman, is definitely the outlier, because everything else would have existed beforehand. And if just that wasn't on the table, or if it was so far off being completed where it was just rumors, then they could probably kill that and continue on. But I think they're just so far into it at this stage that it's just not going to happen.
Well, here's the thing: you could have said that about them casting another Joker, and they
Yeah,
casting
no,
another
like
Joker and doing a standalone Joker
that's
film.
totally
So
that's totally the standout there as well. That but like the only thing is that there wasn't already Jared Leto's Joker, I suppose. As I say, a Joker that existed. But yeah, like the Joker one's definitely one that stands out by itself, because it just seemed like its own little movie, and I don't think any of them expected the Joker to blow up as big as it did as well. It was kind of more like, hey, we have Scorsese producing this, we have like a really good script, and we've Joaquin Phoenix looking to do it. Let's just do this. And then it just kind of caught fire and became bigger than what it was. But yeah, anyway.
I don't know, 10%, I'm saying it.
Fair enough.
All right, let's get on to the main topics of the episode. So we are going to look at those two games we just want to look at real quick before we get into the actual PS5, the look and release and everything. And the one thing we just wanted to touch on was, we're obviously not going to go into any spoilers because we don't know spoilers and we haven't read spoilers ourselves. But The Last of Us 2, the spoiler-free reviews have started coming out. So obviously all of the IGN and all the big dogs have gotten like their copies of The Last of Us. They've played it and they've put out the reviews. And to say that the reviews are glowing would be an understatement.
Have you seen there's a photo that has, do you know the kind of press photo as well, where it shows the tree and Ellie's in the tree, and like one side of it she's playing a guitar, the other side she's hiding with a gun. It's like that really nice one. But around it is just, I think it's 50 or 60 reviews, and they're all 5s out of 5s and 10s out of 10s. And I'm just like, oh my fucking God. This reminds me of when well, firstly when the first Last of Us came out, but also when God of War came out, where it was just all across the board, flat out, like, this is just perfect. And like, you know, for a lot of people, the peak of gaming is the first Last of Us, so it'd be no surprise that this has some sort of cloud about it as well. So
but it's incredible that, like, because how do you follow up a game that apparently is like one of the best games that's ever been done? You ask 10 people what's the best video game ever. And like at least 8 of them would say The Last of Us, or all 10 of them would at least mention The Last of Us in some capacity. You know, it's at that kind of level. So to follow up with it, and for no one, I haven't heard any of the reviews say it's been disappointing. Like, everyone has said it's just a new, like, defining game of the generation. And the only criticism, like, bar maybe one or two minor little like gameplay things, people have said, oh, they could have done this different. But apart from that, the only reason I've seen people not give it a 10 out of 10, I've seen 2 reviewers that give it an 8 out of 10, and both of them give it an 8 out of 10 because they thought it was like tough to get through from a point of like the story and the visuals are so like grim, where they're like, oh my God, like it was just like, it was nearly too much for me. And to those reviewers, like, all respect to you, but I think that's a fucking stupid reason to take points off a game.
It's definitely a stupid route. Yeah, 100%. Like again,
because like that's what it's going for. If you don't like it, fair enough. But
I don't see anyone like who would go into a movie and review like a masterpiece like The Road or something like that and go, oh, it's just too grim to get through. And it's like, well, that's the point of it. It's a dystopian post-apocalyptic future. You know what I mean? About like people being like the worst. You know, like that's kind of what it is. Like, you know, and I doubt it's gratuitous. I doubt it's like having fun in the idea of like, we'll say like a torture in the same way that GTA 5 did. And it's like, I get it there, where like as part of this scene, you have to torture someone, and it's kind of almost played for a little bit of laughs as well. I doubt this game, with the maturity it's gone for, would do that. So like, I suppose my only, I haven't played the game, but the only area I could see it being a criticism, I'm glad no one's really pointed out, is that it might be too similar to the previous game in terms of look and feel. But again, I wouldn't have saw that as like a bad thing. So I'm glad, like that's something that I was expecting, for someone to go like, oh, they done, you know, there was nothing new done or anything along those lines, which makes me feel like there probably is something brand new in this as well that makes it that does make it stand apart. But just purely because of the game it is, even if it was very similar in terms of tone, feel, and gameplay, that's still a good thing, because I felt like they mastered that the first time around. So to just continue that on isn't a bad thing. So anyway, like I'm dying to play this. It comes out here on Friday, doesn't it?
Friday.
So I get to play it in like 4 days time. Cannot wait.
Yeah, so that's definitely something we can't wait for. And like next week, I definitely won't have completed it by next Sunday, but I will have played it, so we will talk about it on the podcast. Knowing
Same.
you, you'll probably be way further in than I will by the time we
It
talk
kind
about
of
it.
depends on like what my weekend's like, but yeah, totally. Like
Yeah,
I definitely would have put a good couple of hours into it, I'd say, on maybe Friday evening and Saturday. So we'll see.
yeah,
We'll see where I stand on Sunday. I doubt I'll have it completed, but we'll see.
yeah. But yeah, we'll definitely be talking about that next week, so make sure you check in for that.
Mhm.
Another game that was announced this weekend, it was just kind of randomly announced. I feel like it leaked,
Mhm.
and then EA just kind of had to announce it, but they're showing footage of it tomorrow now on Monday. But that is Star Wars Squadrons. So they're
Mhm.
making a new Star Wars game. On the cover or the poster they released, at least, it has a rebel pilot and a pilot from the Empire, like a TIE fighter and an X-wing
Mhm.
fighter. So I'm assuming like Star Wars Squadrons, it's going to be some kind of a piloting like shooter game, not a
Yeah.
flying shooter game. What the hell do you call those games? I don't know. You know what I mean? They're going to be
I
flying
know what you
ships. They're going to
mean.
be shooting at each other. I don't think it doesn't look like it's going to be in any way. Like to be honest, like they haven't really released anything else, so I have no idea what else it's going to be.
Mhm.
But I know they used to have like old X-wing games and stuff that people used to
Yeah.
love. I never played any of them myself, but to be honest, I love Star Wars and I want good Star Wars games. If all it is like a shooter kind of game like that,
Yeah.
I don't think it's something I'm going to be interested in. But I'm looking forward to seeing what they release on Monday and see maybe it's
Yeah.
going to be something that will excite me a bit. But
Yeah, it could be fun. Like again, it's nothing that I don't think I'd be interested in all. Like I've kind of always found that flying mechanics in games are really difficult, especially if that's the core thing to do with it. And I'm just like, oh, I couldn't be bothered. And I wonder if this is almost like a reskin version of what they already have for Battlefield. Do you know you can kind of fly around in Battlefield as well? I wonder if it's just like a version of it, and they try and do like that whole online multiplayer thing, but with sky battles. And like it could be really cool
yeah,
visual to look at. And I actually didn't play Battlefront 2, but that's a part of Battlefront 2, isn't it, as well, where there is that kind of flying about in space and a little bit of space battles. So, like, could be
yeah,
fun, but
that's
yeah,
the
I don't
thing.
think this is my cup of tea, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, that's the thing that kind of pulled me out of it because I, not to pull me out of it, but I've played the two Battlefields,
Mm.
or the two, yeah, Battlefield, no, Star Wars Battlefront, yeah, the two Battlefronts,
Battlefront.
and
Yeah.
the like the second one where they have the story mode in it and you play as a pilot for for a part of it, like it just that
Hmm.
mechanic just I just got bored of it. It's kind of one of those things. You're like, oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
fun at the beginning, but then it's like, oh, you're just kind of doing the same thing again and again and shooting this ship and then shooting that ship, and it's just kind
Yeah.
of, to be honest, it got a bit boring for me. So like, even if it had like a story mode or something to it where you could go along and be part of these battles that we've seen, like it's kind of what Battlefront went for.
Hmm.
And it was interesting, but it still got to the point where I'm like, oh Jesus, another space battle now. It's not. That's kind of boring. So yeah, if they're making a full game on it, I don't know how it's going to turn out, to be honest. But we'll see on Monday what they kind of go for.
Yeah. Nice.
But anyway, let's get into the big news of the week. The big news: the PlayStation have decided to release the first look at the PS5, and it is essentially a spaceship.
Yeah, it
It
is.
is,
Like there's a couple of ways. Like people were like, do you remember back in like 2013 when people would speculate what the future consoles would look like? This is like the
yeah,
photos that always came out. They're tacky and futuristic, and
mm,
like to be honest with you, like personally, I'm 100% going to buy it, but I don't like the look. I hate how big and bulky it is. I hate the wings. I hate the color more so than anything else. I think it needs to be all black, and I think there
yeah,
probably will be an all black version of it. I
mm,
do see that in 2 years' time there'll be a slim version of this and it'll be so much nicer. But like I think just as is now, we're gonna have to go and buy this big blocky yoke and make it try and work with the aesthetics of our apartments.
that's
But
the thing. That's the first thing I
yeah,
looked at where I'm like that,
I'm gonna have to
like
hide it.
yeah, unless it's like for people that have like a full gaming room setup with like
Mm.
fucking LEDs and all that kind of stuff, maybe there it'll blend in. But like if you're just putting this thing in your living room, like it's so massive and in
And
your
it's
face.
obnoxious. It's really
Yeah,
obnoxious looking.
there's
It's
nothing
it's
subtle about it at all.
No. And like I wonder how this passed by. Like is like, surely usually size wise is a thing as well, because like there could be a lot of hardware in it as well. But like there's no there's ones with disc tray, and we'll probably get into it now. But like it probably doesn't need to be as big as it is. And like the wings themselves are just there for aesthetics. So there's no need for them to be as big as they are as well. And because of the wings and the way it goes down, if you have to prop this on its side, which is, by the way 90% of the people have their PlayStations, no one
Mm,
stacks it like a tower. It's always portrayed that way, but no one does it. But so like the way to do that is there's like a little kind of like a piece that comes down, so it like hovers off the ground a little bit, so the wings can sit out. I'm like, just design like, who the hell designed this? Like, it just seems like such a big flaw. And like, if you look, see, I can't remember who it is, but someone had a photo up of like what all the consoles looked like on launch, and
Yeah,
like the size of them as well. And it, like, they
it's
grew all the way
huge.
until the PS3, and the PS3 was huge and looked awful. And then they slimmed it down for the PS4. I'm like, that's such a tidy, nice design. And then it
Mm.
just triples in size again to this big monstrosity. And I'm like, gee, like, what happened? Like, they should be getting smaller instead of bigger, you know?
Absolutely, yeah, and like that's for the first time ever. Like, I'm not going to buy an Xbox, but the
Yeah.
new, like the Xbox X Series, just the black box is
Yeah.
so much tidier, and like
It,
I'd
and
much
it's
prefer that in my
neat.
living room.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm the same as yourself. Like, personally, it's just it's such a, like, an eyesore, really, and it's too late to go back in those designs now. They've already brought it out, so like, they're gonna have to go with it. So I'm really hoping on launch there's a black version of it as well, and
Yeah,
I'm just gonna
same
get it.
as.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because that the thing that's going to piss me off now is there definitely isn't going to be, and then like a couple of months later they're going to release a black version, and it's going to be like, where the
Yeah.
fuck was that in day one? That's what we all
Exactly.
wanted, and
And
now we're
then a
going to have to
year or two
switch.
afterwards
Like,
there'll be a
no.
slim version, and it'll be a slim black version, and it'll look really nice. And I'm like, well, shit, I'm
Yeah,
gonna have to buy that now as well. So
yeah, to get rid of this big fucking white thing in my
yeah.
living room that I don't want.
Yeah. Oh, it's
Um,
brutal.
but yeah, it doesn't look great. But the one cool thing that they do have is they have those two, um, they have the two versions of it. So they have the disc version and they have the digital version. So it
Mm.
doesn't have a disc tray. So I'm assuming, like, I'm going to get the digital version. I'm assuming
Same.
that's going to be cheaper because you won't need
Mhm.
the actual disc drive or the Blu-ray drive in it.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, that's just another confirmation that like these devices are moving away from having physical media as
Yeah.
quickly as they can. I would say
I
because it's going to save them money too.
I don't think I've bought a disc this entire generation as well. So like, since the PS4 launched, I don't think I've bought a disc. I think it came with, a disc for Infamous the time I bought it at launch, and then since then I haven't bought a disc at all yet. Like, I just got onto the PSN and tried to re-download some of my games, which I couldn't do, but then just bought a couple of other ones and just moved from that way moving forward. So like, I just don't buy discs anymore at all. So like, it's totally the way to go personally. I know people don't own those games or anything like that moving forward, but like, yeah, it's just a no-brainer. And hopefully it's smaller, just without the disc drive. I just hope it's a little bit smaller. I doubt it,
It
but
is the No, it is the discless version is discless. The digital version is a little bit slimmer than the other one. It's still
nice.
the same height and everything, but it is a little bit slimmer and it's a little
Yeah.
bit a slight bit tidier, but it's still big white and has blue luminous lights coming out of it, so it's not really that tidy. But yeah, so like that would definitely be the version I'd be going for because it's cheaper and somewhat
Mhm.
tidier. But yeah, then on top of releasing that, so they released some accessories and stuff, but it's just different black
Mhm.
and white versions of headphones and cameras and all that kind of stuff. Um,
Nice.
but they announced a lot of the launch games that they're going to have. So
Yes.
we're going to go through a lot of these games here. I'm going to go through most of them, to be honest, just to kind of give it
Mhm.
like a yes or no from our kind of take on them.
Mhm.
But starting with the first one that I'd say both of us, the first two we're going to go through are definitely the top two on both of our
Yeah.
lists to look forward to.
Mhm.
But I really wasn't expecting this, but they have announced that they have a follow up to Spider Man,
Mhm.
and it's going to be focusing on Miles Morales. So it's Spider Man Miles Morales. It's coming out at launch, holiday 2020, so coming out this year.
Nice.
And so far, there still hasn't been confirmation on whether this is a full game or whether it's an expansion of the current game. But from what I've heard
Yeah.
and from developers coming out, it seems like it's kind of like almost like what the Lost Legacy was to Uncharted
Yeah.
4.
Yeah.
It's
Totally.
like an add-on where it's probably going to be between like 7 and 15 hours, somewhere in
Yeah.
around that space. And it's just going to be an add-on to the game, but like
Mhm.
with better graphics and better look, but still very much the same game mechanics, just with
Yeah.
different powers and stuff that comes with Miles Morales as the
And
character.
listen, I'm totally fine with that, and I kind of hope it gets the whole, upgraded look, because it, like, especially if this come with for PS5, just to have that city looking a little bit better. Play as the character Miles looks good. I've looked at the trailer a few times and I've read a couple of comment sections about parts of this as well. But it seems like potentially the route this could be going down is that, because immediately people are like, well, if it's in that universe, where's Peter? So like, there's the hint
Mm.
at the end of the first game about like the symbiote. So like, they might do something where Peter gets infected in like the first mission or something along those lines, and he turns into a venom that's like uncontrollable. So Miles has to suit up and stop him, and that's kind of like what the story is, and it's the reason
Mm.
why you're Miles. And then it brings in Venom, which is really cool. So like, that would be a really cool direction to go with. I kind of hope it's a little bit longer than Lost Legacy. Like Lost Legacy, it did turn out to be like a decent size of a game, and like I was really happy with kind of what happened. But I hope the story mode is bigger, and then no doubt we're just going to get tons of collectibles as well with this.
Yeah.
But it'd just be, yeah, like listen, I'm more than happy to go back into this world. I'd love to say that I hope it would be full price, but they're 100% going to charge full price for this. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, there's a big thumbs up from me anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Same as like like you said, I hope it's a little bit longer than Lost Legacy. But I'm definitely looking forward to it. I feel like it's going to be one of those things where like Peter's going to be in it, but he's going to be kind of like almost like a mentor sending you off to do these things, and then you end up getting stuck on your own, like going off and doing your own thing. Potentially focusing on a different part of the city, maybe, you'd never know. But I feel like they're not going to do a whole pile with Peter and the symbiote, because I feel like that was very much set up like for a sequel, and I assume they're still working on a sequel to the original game, even with this Miles Morales expansion coming out. Like I'd imagine this is kind of one of those things where maybe they thought about adding it on at the end of the first game, but Sony were like, well, hold off, we got the PS5 coming, why don't we just drop that then as like the big kind of launch thing, and then you can still have your sequel to Spider-Man come out like maybe in 2021 or 2022.
I suppose there's lots of ways that Peter can be just like taken out of it. Like, you know, the mention of like when all the shit happens in New York, it's always like, oh, the Avengers are on the West Coast. So it could be something similar where Peter gets a call up to the Avengers, or like, you know, it's just even something simpler like, oh, he's gone to Europe or something like along those lines for something. And that's why Miles is there by himself.
Exactly.
So
like he has the leave for business or something. So he's like, Miles, I'm going to leave you in charge of the city while I'm away. Some one-off scene like that will tell the whole story.
Yeah.
And then another sequel that we have announced, and this is actually full game sequel now. This looks amazing, but the long anticipated and rumored follow up to Horizon Zero Dawn. So this is Horizon Forbidden West, and it's going to be focusing more on the west coast of the US, which we wouldn't really have seen much of in the first game. So it's getting over to like California and that kind of area. And this just looks absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, like I just everything about these games, though, in general, always looks amazing. Like the time this came out for the PS4, it was just by far, hands down, the best looking game that like has ever been created. And I think just the fact that the atmosphere and the world that they've built for this just lends itself to looking incredible, because you have the lush, overgrown kind of future and everything along those lines. But then you also have the dinosaurs that are robotic as well, and then natural. Like, you know, it just builds into the idea that if someone can kind of make this look halfway decent, then it's just going to look incredible, you know, at the end of the day. Story wise, it's been a while since I played this, and I didn't play the DLC, the Frozen North, I think it was, or something along those lines. Wilds. And I've been meaning to go back to it, the Frozen Wilds. I haven't gone back to it now in a while, so like I kind of want to go back in, but I felt like the way that story wrapped was that you kind of got clarity on who you were and what happened to the world. So like I can't remember what her reasons were for leaving at the end. Was there something where she had to go to the West for some reason, I wonder? Or is it just she's traveling, or I don't know?
Yeah, it's been ages since I've watched it, or since I've played it as well, so I can't remember how it was that it ended. But yeah, from just the clip that we've seen, some of the like new scenes, it's kind of like new environments that we're seeing. So there's obviously like, there still seems to be parts where she's climbing kind of like snowy mountains, so going off that frozen wilds a little bit. But then there's also like huge open like sandscape desert kind of areas, which look just amazing for this kind of a story. There's parts where she's swimming underwater, so we get like that new underwater element to the game as well. And then just new like huge beasts. I mean, there's those huge elephants that look like elephants that are coming in. There's that huge like turtle beast that comes out from the ground as well.
Awesome.
It looks incredible. No release date was attached to it, but I'm assuming it's not going to be a launch title, but probably like early 2021, mid 2021.
Do you think now, because they're in the West, do you think there'll be like a hint at like an Area 51 or something along those lines? You know what I mean? Like that'd be really cool because it could be the case that instead of aliens, like the tech was, well, like I know you kind of find out the story about what happens with the tech, but some parts of it could be related to like Area 51. It could be a really cool thing to visit, I suppose. But yeah, like listen, this is going to be great regardless. Like, you know, like these games are phenomenal, and I'm really excited to see kind of what happens with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Another game that got me, I got really excited when I seen this game. It looks absolutely beautiful. But it's called Kena, Kene, Kenna
Hmm.
Bridge of Spirits. It's a third-person action adventure game, and it's by an indie studio that was founded by two brothers that have like a background in
Mm.
animation and film. And it's like a narrative-driven third-person action adventure, like we mentioned, with like a focus on exploration and a focus on combat. But
Hmm.
it looks really cool. Like it's got a similar kind of aesthetic almost to like God of War, except it's like
Yeah.
an animated version of that kind of world. With
Yeah.
like it's like a Pixar animation style in terms of like the animation of the character, but it just looks really interesting and really beautiful.
Yeah, like I love when these games come up. I kind of always find that when a new console launches, it's the opportunity for studios to come in with these new looking type of feel of games as well. And this could be a franchise in the making as well. But it like again, this isn't a direct comparison, but it does remind me of when Ratchet and Clank first came on the PS2.
Mm.
When I saw something I'm like, this is a really cool look and feel, and the style of what they're going for here could be really good. It kind of reminded me even a little bit of like, like a Zelda Breath of the Wild. I know it's not like a
Yeah,
one-to-one thing, but like the idea and the world and the forest and the person you are and stuff like that, I got those type of vibes from it, and because of that I got really excited. So like the fact that we don't know too much about this almost makes it better. That like, like I can't tell like from what they've done previously what directions is going to go, how big is it going to be, like what the story elements are going to be to it as well. So like I'm very, very excited by this game.
mm.
And yeah, like I reckon it'll be kids focused as well, but like that's not a bad thing, so like I think it'll just be a fun experience, and hopefully they tell a good story. But indie
Yeah,
studios typically have that down. Like, story is never an issue with an indie studio, really, because it's
yeah.
kind of like a tailored narrative where it's just like maybe one person works on it and it's just tight. So fingers
Yeah, yeah.
crossed.
Yeah, absolutely. And the game mechanics and everything, like the
Mm.
traversal of the world and everything, just looks beautiful. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to playing this one.
Mm.
And you mentioned it before, Ratchet and Clank. They've got a
Yeah.
new one coming out called Rift Apart. Did you ever play any of the original Ratchet and Clanks or the last couple?
Oh yeah, like I'm a giant Ratchet and Clank fan. I've played all of them, and I watched the awful movie as well. Like, this was like Ratchet and Clank was my first like real video game that I remember all the PS1 games and stuff like that, but the time I got a PS2 was really the moment where I kind of became like my own kind of gamer almost. And this was the game that came with it. So like I've always had like the nostalgia for Ratchet and Clank games, and like they kind of fell off the waypoint a little bit, and especially into the later generations. And then I found when they brought in the movie tie-in game, which was basically just a retelling of the original with some of the other kind of things added into it. I thought it was fantastic. I don't think it got great reviews at the time, but I really enjoyed it. So like I'm all for jumping back in this world, and it seems like they're switching up a little bit by splitting the characters up, and they'll probably have to, like the story and the writing in these are always like second to none. Like the way the guys in Insomnia can tell a story is actually really funny, and like the comedy behind these are really good. Like it's the modern kind of Jack and Daxter almost. I know they're very similar, but like
Yeah.
yeah, like I'm all for this, and like they're usually good ones. Like Insomnia are a really good studio for like taking the hardware that you have and translating it, and then because
Mm.
the characters are animated, it's gonna look incredible. So like this will be a good game, but like I don't think they're gonna do anything like flat outside of the box. I don't think it'll be like one of the ones to remember, but it'll be a really good game.
Yeah, that because I've never played any of Ratchet and Clanks, but watching that trailer, I was like, "Oh,
You
this actually
should
looks
do.
like a really fun platformer." So I definitely think I'm going to check this one out. And if I
I
enjoy that, I might go
reckon
back and
I
try some of the
reckon the
others.
movie game that came out like 2 years ago is like really cheap now on PSN or something like that. Like definitely hop on it. Like they're real fun. They're a bit breezy. Like, you'd probably complete it in a weekend, but like
Yeah, yeah,
it's really fun. Yeah.
nice. Um, the next one they had up was Project Athia. And I think this is still a working title, so this game is a well a way off. But it's another third person kind of action adventure. It looks good enough. It's from Square
Mm.
Enix. They said that it is like a AAA game, so it's going to be a big game. But there's
Yeah.
no release date or no launch date or anything. It's definitely not ready for launch. Like we said, it hasn't even got an
No.
official title yet. It kind of looks like a darker adult version of Kena Bridge of Spirits that we were just talking
Yeah.
about. Like it's a very
Yeah,
similar
totally.
kind of like gameplay looking thing.
Mhm.
But yeah, it looks all right. But again, I feel like there's not much in the trailer, and it's so
Yeah.
long before it's going to come out yet that I'm not really excited for it yet. I'll probably forget about
Same.
it by the time they release another trailer.
Yeah, totally. Like this trailer done really nothing for me at all. Like, you know, some of the visuals looked really nice. Like her kind of jumping across like those cliffs and stuff looked really cool.
Mm.
But then I saw some of the other parts where like, you know, she folds a tree in on them, and I just didn't think it looked that polished. And like this game seems so far off. But like it seems like the studio just wanted to be included in like the launch, so it's like
Yeah,
top of mind.
yeah.
Like I reckon this game's nearly 2 years off at least.
Yeah,
You know,
it's going
like
to be one of
it
those
seemed
where
like
we're going to be hearing about it for a while.
think so, yeah. But like, listen, you know, we'll come back to it in E3 2022, and it'll come out that year. So anyway,
And then when we're talking about it, we're like, was this the one they released the trailer for 2 years ago? That's that one, isn't it? Yeah, all right, okay.
exactly.
um, Perfect. The next one, which interesting trailer, but
Mm-hmm.
gameplay seemed kind of boring for me, to be honest. But it's
Yeah,
the Returnal is a game that's coming out. Again, I don't know if they've got a release date on it yet, but
mm-hmm.
it's a third-person shooter. But in the trailer looks really interesting because what is happening is
Yeah,
essentially you're on a planet and you're kind of stuck in one of those time loops where the character
yeah,
wakes up on this planet. Um, and every time they die, they go back to the beginning, but the planet has changed. So it's like you're trying to get through the planet, but you
mm-hmm.
eventually will die in the story. So you'll go back to the beginning, but the planet has like evolved or it's completely changed or whatever. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like you're going through like I'm thinking like a Edge of Tomorrow, except with a bit of a space spin on it.
Yeah,
Um, but it's a third person shooter, so when it actually gets into the gameplay, it just looks like another space shooter where you're shooting big
yeah.
monsters or whatever. It didn't seem super interesting gameplay wise, but the story is one that I'm like kind of, and the
Mm-hmm.
visuals, like it looked beautiful, and the story is something that I'd be interested in. So I don't know. I'll probably wait for reviews of
Mm-hmm.
this to see what it's like. But did you have any interest in this one?
Yeah, I think this is by the guys who done Dead Space, isn't it? I think as well. I think it's the same creators who done that as well. I can't remember the trailer because I watched so many trailers around the time. Are you sure this is the one that if you die it goes back to start a loop? Because there's a game as well called Bulletproof or Bullet Loop or something along those lines, and that's the one where if you die you basically go back to the start of it and you have to kill 7 different people, but it's not in space or something like that. I think you might have mixed both of them up, but I'm not sure. Unless
No,
both
I'm
of them
pretty
have the
sure that was
same
this one.
sort of. Well, there you go. Then both of them have the same sort of like team to them as well. But yeah, like this looks good. Like visually, it looks really kind of cool and everything like that. But like I'm totally with you. Like as soon as I got into like the shooting parts, I'm like, oh, that seems like crap. And then the sprites all kind of popped up and they were just like kind of floating, kind of like scary, sort of like whatever dead angel things. And I'm just like, ugh.
Hmm.
Like I can see this being a bit of a grindy sort of a planet thing. Like yeah, it just didn't catch me. And like to be honest with you, I can't see myself getting this unless like the reviews come out around the time and people are talking about how amazing it is. But like it just doesn't, yeah, it just doesn't do it for me, I don't think. But
Yeah, same as.
yeah,
Um, then another little small platformer that they had a trailer for.
mm,
That's kind of one of those games that always tends to come out when there's a new launch.
yeah,
But it's Sackboy: A Big Adventure. And
mm-hmm.
it's what was this character originally from? What was the when the PS3 or PS
Little Big Planet.
that was it. So it's one
Yeah,
of the characters from that. He's kind of getting his own little story. But the gameplay, to be honest, looks really cool. Like it looks
yeah,
very like a different version of like Mario Odyssey type gameplay.
yeah.
It seems like a fun platformer. To be honest, I probably will actually check it out just to see
Yeah.
because it's probably going to be pretty cheap. And I'll get through it in a couple of hours. But it looks fun, for like
Oh,
a
like
simple little platform.
that, and then the actual look of it looks amazing. Like the textures of like the kind of
Yeah.
the cloth or the cotton or something like that. I can't think what it is, but like
Mm.
that sort of texture environment looks amazing. Like if you have like a really kick-ass 4K TV and the hardware of a PS5 playing this, like
Mm.
visually this would look incredible. Like just regardless of the story, it'd be really fun to play a platform looking this polished. I think even for like a couple of hours as well. So yeah, it looked good. Again, this is something that I feel like I'd pick up halfway through the life cycle of the PS5 because I didn't want to pay a full price for it because again it's
At
not
the
my cup
beginning,
of
yeah.
tea. But yeah, but like totally looks really fun. I think if you have a kid and you're, I don't know, getting a PS5 and you're thinking about buying all the games you mentioned before, this is a really good one to get on board as well, I think, because like all these ones are really good for getting kids involved. It looks really pleasing, as well.
Yeah.
So like I think that would keep a kid entertained all day.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Absolutely.
looks great.
Yeah, then another one that they announced at it was another follow up to the Abe's Odyssey world. So it's Oddworld, Soulstorm. This just looks like a crazy looking platformer. Like I don't know, I haven't played one of the Abe's Odyssey games in a long time.
Same.
I don't know if you even played any of them, but I didn't even know they were still going, to be honest. And it, like, again, I've gotten more into platformers over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it get good reviews, I may check it out. But I honestly would have. I think I'd much prefer something like the Sackboy game than this Oddworld. It just looks crazy.
Yeah, the only thing about Oddworld is that I remember playing the first one on like a demo disc. I don't think I ever had more than the demo disc. And I remember having good nostalgia for it, but I forget that the point of the game is to pick up all the people and try and get them to the end. And it's a lot of carnage of like them getting blown up and stuff. And then I was kind of like, oh, like, do I really like this type of game? So like, I don't know if I'll go back to it, but it's cool that they're still making them. I don't know how many they've made. I feel like they've made at least a follow up to Abe's Odyssey, and then maybe it's the third game. There's a couple of them.
They've made a couple in the last couple of years.
Yeah. Again, like this isn't my cup of tea really as well. I think I'd wait to hear maybe even from yourself if it's any good before I jump back in, because nostalgia is the only thing that has me going like, oh, this could be fun.
Yeah. They also released a trailer for this Godfall game, which they've been it's kind of like they've been pushing it on the side, but they're not majorly pushing it because they know that it looks kind of shit.
Well, this was their first announcement for the PS5. Like the first time we saw a trailer for this was earlier this year, I think, as well. And they mentioned that it was like, oh, this is their first look at a game that's going to come out on PS5. And I'm like, oh, really? This is disappointing. You know, like this looks crap. Like I really don't like the look and feel of this. Like it looks really messy. The actual character designs are so awful. Like it looks like something right out of the 90s. Like I really don't like the look and feel of this. Like I actually have zero interest in this game at all.
No interest at all. And I haven't heard of anyone online being like, oh my god, this looks great. Like everyone's just like, what why was that the one you showed us?
Yeah, like there was so many other options as well, it seems. But it's not mine. See, it's done by Gearbox, and I think that's what has a lot of people kind of like, oh, that's really cool or whatever, because they've done oh god, I'm blanking on it now. But did Gearbox do Overwatch as well? I think they've done a couple other really good games where people are like, oh yeah, you know, they're a good developing studio, so like that's cool. But like, yeah, just the overall look, like even if it's done by good developers, I'm not sure if it just looks awful, honestly.
Hitman 3 is coming, so this is going to be their kind of close out to the new Hitman trilogy. So the first one, the kind of reboot, came out in 2016. They done the second one over the last couple of years, where they done like the chapters and they released them separately. And then this is going to be kind of the conclusion to that trilogy. And I personally I played the first one, the one in 2016, and I kind of enjoyed it, but kind of got bored with it.
Was 2016 the one that was the episodes? Was that 2016?
No, that's the Hitman 2. That's the most recent one that's been coming out over like the last kind of 2 years ish. They've been releasing those chapters.
I played.
Was it good?
Yeah, parts of it. Like again, Hitman games they're fun, but I feel like the idea that people love playing them like over and over again until they get like the right kill. I'm very much like, I'll go in and I'll do it, and then I don't really feel like going back and playing it again. So like the games, I don't think are tailored to me in that way. I think they always look amazing, and I love the ideas that it can be tackled like any different way. And some of like the inputs are like really fun and really cool, but like I was bored by it by the end. Like, you know, I just don't think it's my type of game really. And like this looks fun, but again, I don't think I'm gonna get it really. I don't know.
Yeah, similar to that, the whole idea of like, oh, I didn't like how I killed him that time, so I'm gonna go back and do it differently. I'm very much like you, where I'm like, I'm just gonna go through it once and that's it. So 100%. Like if I didn't do it well that time, well, fuck, I'll learn for the next time, but I'm not redoing it. Like I'm not going back and doing the same thing differently just for the sake of me feeling better about it. Like
these games are good as a kid, like, because the time when, like, say I was really young, where I could only like get like one game every like 6 or 7 months, to have something like Hitman that could be tackled loads of different ways, where I wasn't playing the same level again and again and again, was great and a good idea. But now that I'm older and I can just like, I have like 7 other games that I really want to go and play, the idea of like playing this over and over again is just like, why would I bother? So like, like I think just that idea of what Hitman is kind of just gone off in me now. I'm just not about it anymore.
I'm not about that life.
Not about that life.
How about remakes, or Lorcan? I'm sure that's the life you're about.
I actually love remakes, and I'm playing the Spyro remake at the minute as well. Just as an aside.
So the studio that done the Shadow of the Colossus remake, was it last year, a year ago, that it was released, and people were raving about it. They are remaking the Demon Souls game. So
Yeah.
from the Souls franchise, did you play Dark Souls,
Uh,
or are you a fan of
no,
that
I played
franchise?
I played Bloodborne, and I played about maybe the first hour of Bloodborne. I said this game is too hard for me. Like I feel like I'm going to have to like invest a good bit of time to get into it. And like that's what everyone says. Like the mantra for those games are get good. There's no difficulties settings in it. It's either you get good at playing it or you just don't play it. And
Yeah.
I'm someone who gets frustrated with dying in games all the time. So like the idea of a game that's really part of the game is dying over and over again is just not, yeah, I don't like it. And Demon Souls always goes down as, I think it's either Demon Souls or Dark Souls 2 that gets put down as like the hardest out of all of them. So like I'm just, again, there's no way in hell I'm gonna jump into this game unless I grow an appreciation for it by playing like Bloodborne and going like, oh, I get it now, like this is fun. But I can't see that happening personally. Don't know
Yeah.
about yourself. Like, have you ever played any of the Dark Souls or
Oh,
Demon Souls games?
no, it's just aesthetically and visually and like gameplay wise, it just doesn't look like anything
Mm,
I'd be interested in. And then similar to that,
mm,
where it's like I like when you can get in and figure out how to play a game and get better at it and go
yeah,
for it. But like the whole idea of getting in and like having to die loads of times to figure out how to do something
yeah,
or how to get better, and just like similar to that, I
mm,
just get frustrated. And like I play
yeah.
games to enjoy myself, not to be
Yeah,
amazing at them.
same.
Like, so I don't give a shit if I'm not amazing at them if I'm having a good time with them still.
Yeah. And there's
So
definitely
like
that attitude with the Souls franchises as well, where like people are like, it's definitely a badge of honor. Like people are like, oh, I'm a
oh
real
yeah,
gamer because like
people think
I've
they're great
platinum
because
this
of it.
game, and I'm just like, oh, I don't care. Like it just shows me that you've put so much time into like dying into this game. And it's like I don't have that time anymore as
Yeah.
well to jump in and essentially get good. So like
Yeah,
no,
and if you love these games, that's more power to you. It's
oh
more the
yeah,
people that online that shite on about it like they're great because they've done it. It's like, all right, get over yourself.
yeah, fuck that.
Yeah. um, and Lorcan, you don't like scary movies, so you definitely don't like scary games. Um,
Yeah, but I actually do like Resident Evil. Like
do,
I do. Yeah, I haven't played it in
which,
years, but I used to
which
love the
version
first
of it do
one.
you like? That's what I was gonna say. You like the versions of like where it's kind of more of a shooter game than a
Yeah,
survival game, though, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah.
So Resident Evil 8, they've announced a follow up to the last one that was going back into really into that like first
Mm,
person like survival kind of game. Like there are shooter elements to it, but it's more about like just survival
mm-hmm,
in like this terrible space. So this one is Resident Evil 8 Village, and
mm-hmm,
it seems like you're caught in this village and weird beasts and creatures and stuff are kind of coming after you, and you're trying to
yeah,
figure out how to get out of it. I think you're playing the same guy that you would have played in the last game as well.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. The
but yeah,
last game was the
this
house, wasn't it? It was like you're basically stuck in that house.
I think something like that. Yeah, I can't remember
Yeah,
exactly. I didn't play it because I love horror. I love
yeah,
horror movies, and I never played horror games growing up. But I started seeing like when they released like the Resident Evil from a couple of years ago, where I went back in that first person mode, and they started releasing the updated Outlast games that were like Outlast
yeah.
2 looked amazing. And I watched the trailer and I was like, oh my god, this is what I want to play. And I played that game. Remember we played it? What was it? Where
Yeah.
you're multiple characters, and it's like a slasher movie where if you die as one of the characters, they
Oh,
just
Until Dawn. Until Dawn.
and I loved it, and it was class. So I was like,
Yeah,
okay, I need to
great
get it
game.
more. But then I played Outlast, and it just scared the crap out of me. Like
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
playing at
mm,
home at night, and I was like, I'm this is
yeah.
frightening the life out of me. I'm getting no
Oh,
enjoyment out of it.
the
So I
worst
just
one, the worst one of all those is PT, and like
oh
PT was only a trailer, and like it doesn't exist anymore. You can't get it anywhere because Kojima and Konami and all that sort of jazz. But like that was the precursor to what the Resident Evil games were supposed to be. So like even if like a teeny bit of that energy of what PT is involved in like Resident Evil 8, there's no chance in hell of me ever playing this game because PT is like the scariest thing I've ever seen ever. So like movies, any sort of anything, like the way PT looks and feels and treats like the way you walk around and how you're trapped. I just don't want to do that. Like, cause as you said before, like I play video games to enjoy them, not to be like absolutely petrified. So like, there's no way in hell I'm going to probably play this game.
it's like I will say, like watching the trailer and stuff, it looks great, and I wish I enjoyed it. Like as much as I love scary movies, I wish I enjoyed going through it step by step like that. But it's just, yeah, maybe I'll give this one a try because I always feel like I'll give it a try when it comes out, and then I play about an hour and I get a little bit scared and stop playing it. So see, I'll give it a go and see. But I'm sure for anyone that loves the Resident Evil franchise, this trailer probably done a lot for you, because it does look great and it brings back characters from previous games as well, which is nice to see a bit of consistency there. So yeah, looks really good.
Nice.
And then the last one really that was announced with PS5 was GTA 5, because
Yeah.
money. That's really why they're releasing it again. Like
Uh,
this was released on
yeah.
PlayStation 3. Let's not forget. Like, it came out first at the
Yeah.
end of the PS3 cycle, and I played on PS3. I don't think I've
Same.
ever played GTA 5 on the PS4. Like, I never
I
got
did.
it.
I played it last summer. I just got it again because I was sick of not being able to just jump into the world and drive around a little bit. So I just got it again. But like, yeah, like I watched the PlayStation launch at the start. Like I didn't watch all of it, but it was kind of on, and I was like, oh, I'll stream this in the background because I'm really interested to see the overall look and feel. And the first game that they announced for it before anything happened was this as well. But like, initially when it opened up, it showed just the Rockstar logo, and I'm like, oh, no way, no fucking way, it's going to be GTA 6. And then it shows the clips from the start, and I'm like, oh, they're hardly going to do like, GTA 5 and say it's on this platform again, and that's the opening. And then I thought like, oh, they're probably going to take like shots of this and then kind of cut and go, oh, it's something bigger. But no, it just continued on, and then it was just like, oh, it's just letting us know that GTA Online basically is going to be on the PS5. And it's like, oh, that's depressing, because it even shows in my head now that like they're nowhere even remotely looking at doing GTA 6. They're just still milking it out. And I'm like, that's so sad. Like, I'm actually
Yeah.
really upset now because of it.
I can't believe how many people are still playing this online.
Yeah,
Like, it's
yeah.
insane. This game was released in, I don't even know what year it was, but it's like so long ago.
But see, the
And now,
thing is, and like, this is the Skyrim thing as well. Eventually, it's going to peter out, and you're going to be so far off having another one done. Would they not work on GTA 6 in the background? And they'll do the same thing. Like, they'll treat the online experience as something similar. So when it comes out in like 3 years' time, that they'll have just an updated, better looking version of what they already have at the moment. Is that not what they should do really as well? Because eventually people are going to fall out of love with GTA Online or GTA 5 Online, and then they're going to have nothing, kind of like what Skyrim have as well, where like that ship has sailed and they're so far off getting another Elder Scrolls that they just missed the boat. So like, it just seems like a no-brainer. Like, why can't they have something working in the background? Because at the moment Red Dead's done, so what? Like, I'm sure they are working on GTA 6, but like, I feel like as part of this new generation, there should have been one already lined up. So like, it's just really sad that nothing's
yeah.
there.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I'm sure they are working on GTA 6 in the background, but like,
Yeah.
the fact that one of the big launch things you talk about is the fact that it's just GTA 5 coming back again. It's like, Jesus,
Yeah.
come on. Like, I know you're still making money out of it, and that's the business you're in, but
Yeah.
get a new one and just make money off that,
Yeah, because like, I've no doubt that the new one would make money. Like, the reason why Red Dead Online isn't making the same money as the GTA one is because it doesn't have the cars and the planes and the cities. It's not as relatable. And like, the game itself, yeah, it's way better, but like, the online element of it as well, it's just, you can't really comprehend, or you can't compare the idea of being able to like jump into a world and hop into a jet than one where you hop onto a horse. You know what I mean? Like, it's not really the same. So like, if they created a GTA 6 and still had like those things, like, it'd be just as successful, if not more successful at the time, I think. So like, it just seems like a no-brainer. But like, sometimes these people at the top will go, well, right, we tried something new with just with Red Dead and it's not going to work, so we're just not going to do anything for a while, and we're going to put more money into GTA Online. So it's just a sad indictment, I think, of where Rockstar are at the moment.
Yeah. Anyway, we look forward to whenever they finally do release GTA 6 in 10 years' time.
Yeah, fair enough.
But I think that's most of the PS5 stuff. Was there any other announcements you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, there was one more. We'll just end on like a big high, which was Stray, which was, you basically play as a cat detective in a city full of robots. And I just think the premise of that is actually, like, genuinely, I think is a really good idea. Because if you control as a cat, it looks like a weird kind of platformer esque type of thing. Kind of reminds me a little bit like Journey, where I bet you there'll be no kind of talking because the robots probably don't talk to each other. They just move on in like their own program ways. There's no humans in this world, and then the cat obviously doesn't talk either. So I feel like it'll be like you piecing together what's really going on in this world, or what stories are happening in the eyes of a cat. And like, I just think that concept's really cool. It'll probably be a really small indie title. It's not exclusive, I don't think. I think it's on PC as well. But like, I think that'll be a really fun game to play at launch, because visually I think it looks stunning. So like, it could be really good. So like, again, it's not your big groundbreaking games like all the other ones beforehand, but like it definitely deserves a shout because I feel like it could stand out amongst some of these kind of awful enough launch titles as well. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, it's just such a strange looking game that you
I
play
think it
as a
looks
cat.
really cool.
What? But yeah, we try. Let's see.
Nice.
Awesome. So we'll jump on to some random recommendations.
I'm switching it up. It's more mellow.
Random recommendations.
Oh, I took a drink of water, but
I was thinking of it. It was like the little pause. Oh, it's been so long.
Okay.
Did you have any? Did you watch, play, listen?
Yeah, I watched Spike Lee's new movie on Netflix called Da Five Bloods with Chadwick Boseman among another or a good big ensemble cast of black actors, and it was really good. So like a typical Spike Lee fashion, it was very of the moment, I suppose, with obviously the things happening with Black Lives Matter, you know, looking at kind of, I suppose, that part of American culture, and then diving into history as well, like looking at, you know, the Vietnam War, which was kind of like the underlying trait for this, where it follows, I think it's four African American GIs who fought in Vietnam War, and they go back because they buried gold basically as well, and they want to kind of dig it up and make money off it, but they have to go back into the jungle. They deal with their past. You know, there's the idea of like kind of like how they see Vietnam, how they see themselves, like, you know, I know a lot of people, and like there's countless movies that look at the Vietnam War and how the kind of PTSD has affected all troops as well, but they don't really look at it from like an African American kind of point of view as well, where, you know, they didn't really, well, the majority of people who went to fight in the war as well were all kind of promised like a better life, because this is around the time of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, and kind of very much a similar time to where we're at now, where like they were very much treated like second class citizens. And the idea is that if they went off and fought in the war, like a country that they saw as their own as well, but still treated like second class citizens even over there. And it's just like the dynamics at play are really, really interesting, and it's a really good film. But the only issue I have with it is that it's so long. It's like nearly 3 hours long, and the pacing is all over the place. Like it's edited so weirdly, but like, again, it's kind of one of those ones where like I feel with certain directors it can be written off. Like it's very Spike Lee in the way it looks and feels. Like it's kind of a little bit like Black Klansman, where like there's moments of that movie where, you know, the tone just changes or something goes on a little bit longer than it should, and it's definitely a style choice. It's not like bad directing, but it's just there's a lot of that in this, and it just goes on for so long. And, you know, towards the end I felt like this movie could have been at least an hour shorter as well, because there's so many unnecessary scenes. And I think if this movie was tighter, it definitely would have been amazing. But I know there's people out there who'll be doing like video essays of this and be talking about like it's basically everything that's in there is intentional. The long shots are intentional, and they're there to serve for something bigger. And if they were gone, it'd be a different movie. But I don't know. I think for an accessible, open audience, like the movie is just too long, and it takes so long to get into certain parts of it. I'll get to the end of it, like in that I love it, and Chadwick Boseman's amazing in it. He's not in it that much, but he's incredible in it. And yeah, it's fantastic, and I definitely recommend people watching it, especially in the moment that we're in now. But like it's just so long. So but yeah, like it's definitely fantastic, and it's free on Netflix. If you can call that free.
If you pay for Netflix, it's free on Netflix.
Have you watched anything that's not as doomy or gloomy?
It's not a great. It's a documentary I watched this week actually that I found very interesting. It's from 2018, I think, so it's out a while now. But if you haven't checked it out, I definitely recommend checking it out. I think it's not on Netflix, but it's called "The Inventor: Out for Blood in Silicon Valley." Have you ever heard of it?
No, but it sounds really intriguing.
Interesting. It's about this company in Silicon Valley. It's about this young. She was 19, 20 when she started the company. I can't even remember her name, but basically, you know the way when you have to get your bloods checked, essentially, you have to get like the needle stuck in, you get like a couple of vials of blood drawn out, and then it's sent off to a lab, they test it all, and then you get your results back in a couple of days' time. Sometimes it costs a lot of money depending on what blood test you want to get done, all that kind of stuff. What essentially this girl wanted to do when she started up this company was she has this huge like love for Steve Jobs and like the tech companies in Silicon Valley. She was in Silicon Valley, and she wanted to create a company or a device where basically, you know, the way you get a blood prick from your finger.
Yeah.
So you get a prick of blood from your finger, and it goes into like this tiny little vial. You pop it into a machine, and within a few hours, it will have run like 200 tests on your blood, and it does it all in the machine. That's all it's needed. You don't need, so it gets rid of like the fear of having to get needles. It gets rid of the cost for it. It gets rid of all the time that has to be sent and loads of labs and people and all that kind of stuff. That was her idea. The only issue with the idea is that basically it's physically impossible to do what she wanted to do.
Like, oh my god! Oh, I feel like I know this. Like, I don't know if I know it from a trailer from this or from anything else. Where like she basically defrauded a load of people, didn't she?
Loads of people. So basically, she has this. They call it the Edison, and the whole story behind calling it the Edison was Edison had this idea where he was like, "I'll fail 1,000 or 10,000 times to get right on the 10,001st time." And the whole idea, like in Silicon Valley with tech companies, like you can fake it till you make it. You can be like, "Hey, here's our idea, and we need funding from you for us to make this idea happen." And she took on the same approach of like, it's not physically possible right now, but she didn't tell anyone this. She was like, here's the idea. I know it works. Whereas in real life, in reality, it's like, this idea does not work and it physically cannot work, but she's going to keep pushing it until she can get people to make it work. But the whole thing behind it is that she's getting like almost $900 million in funding, and it's going out and it's been tested in like shops and stores in the US, and people are getting their blood samples and they're being given results back. But like it doesn't work and it's not safe and it doesn't match up with actual blood samples. So there's loads of like when you have like technology, like a tech company that try to fake it until they make it, like that's one thing. But when you're balancing people's lives and like massive risks with like them checking for like serious diseases they might have, and they're using your blood sample, your blood tests are like not working. Oh, it's incredible. But it breaks down the whole way of like how someone can convince billionaires to fund an idea without billionaires even asking for proof that it works. They're funding her and they're funding her idea, but she just like scams so many people, and then gets lawyers out the door to like push people back and everything. Basically, she's in the middle of a lawsuit now. The company's worth absolutely nothing, but it was valued at like over $1 billion at one point. It's going through the whole thing of like how there's just so much fraud in Silicon Valley because it's people basically getting money for an idea when they can't even prove that their idea works, and like not going public with it for so long because they're still trying to make it work before they go public and have to prove everything. And it's so interesting. It's like this one story that's really interesting, but it also gives you such a greater insight into the workings of Silicon Valley when it comes to like tech and stuff as well, rather than, because obviously this is just a tech idea, but it happened. It's a tech idea that has huge implications on human life, you know? So it's really interesting.
It's so scary.
I recommend it because it just gives you a different insight into like how these tech companies become valued at such astronomical money, you know? It's really, really, really interesting. So yeah, it's called what did I say it's called?
The Investor Out for Blood in Silicon Valley.
Yeah, I'd highly recommend checking it out. It's really, really interesting.
Yeah, and that's it for us this week.
That's about it for this week. Yeah, a bit of a long one this week, but a lot of PlayStation news, so that was worth the chat, worth the extra chat. But
I'm sure we'll do this for when Xbox properly kind of go a bit deeper, because I know they've released their one, but have they done any launch yet? They aren't like launch for games.
They haven't done like a launch game, like an event like this yet. I know they've done a lot of events where they talk about the hardware and the Xbox itself and stuff. They haven't done like a big launch for like their launch titles or anything. So when they do that, even though we're not Xbox gamers, we'll definitely check it out and kind of compare it to PlayStation 1 to see how we feel about it.
I'd say so.
But yeah, we hope you enjoyed the episode, guys. If, like we said, as usual, if you're watching on YouTube, please hit the like button, subscribe, tell your friends about it. We're still really new on YouTube, so we're just getting started with it. But yeah, if you know anyone else that might like the podcast, feel free to share it with them. Follow along with us on Instagram and all that kind of good stuff as well. Yeah, enjoy, guys. Anything else? Yeah, keep washing your hands. Oh yeah, wash your hands. Don't spit at people. Just be good human beings, and we'll all get through this. Sweet. All right, guys. We will talk. See you, Jamie. Bye, Jimmy.
Bye. 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 Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye.